In order. Is there anybody that has a conflict of interest or pecuniary interest to declare on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed. No conflicts. A motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Simpson, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Then we have 3.1, the budget meeting minutes of February 15, 2018. Councillor Chapman moves 3.1 as presented. All in favor? 3.2, budget meeting minutes February 21, 2018. Well, Councillor Lloyd, all in favor? Okay, and item 3.3, special council meeting minutes of April 14, 2018. Councillor Simpson, any discussion? All in favor? 3-4. Regular council meeting minutes of April 24th, 2018. Councillor Holm, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. So do you want to do that now? I think so. So we'll do item 7.1, approval of the audited 2017 financial statements. Don't even let Michelle catch her breath from her holidays or anything.
You knew what I was coming back to.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to provide the highlights for our 2017 fiscal year. In 2017, we were able to purchase land that we can be using for future development within the town of Coaldale. This purchase will help the town grow into the future. Our investments have increased by $1 million, and these funds were put into a GIC for our next recreation project. Our debt load increased in 2017 by $118,000 as a result of several high interest debentures being paid off in January and line purchases. We removed 4 loans from our books early. The loans carried interest rates anywhere from 4.5 to 8%. We are well within our debt limit and the servicing capacity in our debt limit. For information purposes, our current debt is $4.3 million, while our limit is $26.8 million. Overall, 2017 was a good year financially for the town of Coaldale. Due to a high number of land sales, extra investment income, and offsite levies, we ended the year with an unexpected surplus of approximately $650,000. All surplus funds have been transferred to general infrastructure reserves to be used for future improvements in the town of Coaldale. Are there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions through to our Chief Financial Officer?
Your worship, that it's a good news story.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions, then be appropriate to have a motion to adopt the audited financial statements.
To approve them? Correct.
Yeah. Councillor Chapman moves that we approve the audited 2017 financial statements. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Michelle. You want to do 5.1? This one? Okay, we have, we're paying our accountants by the hour, so maybe we'll get our accountants up and do a delegation and maybe have a good news story for 2018 yet. So, welcome, Will and Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Michelle's given the highlights of the financial statements. It's our job to give an opinion on the financial statements. So management's responsible for the fair presentation and ensuring that the financial statements present fairly the financial status of the town of Coaldale in accordance with public sector accounting standards. Our job is to come and look over everything, look what's under the rocks, check everything out, and give an opinion. And the last paragraph in our report says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the town of Coaldale as at December 31st, 2017, and the results of its operations, changes in its net financial assets and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So it is a clean opinion, which we would hope and expect. So, and that's our report.
Any questions
Questions?
through to the delegation? Councilman Chapman?
Thank you, Worship, and through to you folks. I appreciate all your hard work and all this endeavor. My question would be relevant to page 24 of 26 under commitments. The A, so we're talking about the RCMP Municipal Service Agreement. The last sentence, just wanted to have a question through to council on that, on the wording of that. What would be council's opinion on the wording on that, being that the question we have today is that we are pursuing a different route in terms of the 100% agreement?
Well, the agreement as it stands reads thusly, so I don't, as much as I like to put 70% in there, I think we have to follow the procedures and lobby for the decrease, but I believe it's accurate to reflect it in the current financial statements as thus.
Just wondering, Your Worship, if it'd be helpful to remove that sentence and just have the expiry date on there.
I'm not sure it's the reality of the situation, so I don't know if that's appropriate. Councillor Avery?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't see the concern of having that in there. It's a true fact that we're paying for 100% of our policing, the only town within Canada doing such, and I think it should be left in there because that is in our agreement that we're paying 100%, and until it's changed, keep it as such.
Thank you, Worship. That's satisfactory with me.
Okay. All right. And we had a pre-meeting with the auditors, and they didn't whisper anything that was untoward with they said that they had good cooperation from administration and there was no untoward findings throughout the audit. So I'm proud to report that to council via the pre-meeting I have with auditors. So everything's in good shape. They received good and full cooperation from staff, and there's no matters of fraud to be reported or anything. So
Just a thought process on the wording. If we would use the word as part of the agreement, the town pays 100% of the cost of providing the service. The will pay seems to allude, in my opinion, that we're acceptance of that agreement. It just gives it a current status.
Michelle?
Bill, we have to have it as of December 31st, 2007. That is the agreement. That's why it's worded in that way.
Okay.
We cannot change it anything to what we hope it will be. It's as December 31st. That's what it is. So that's how we have to keep it.
All right. Thank you.
I don't believe that anybody will use this for optical political gain anyway. It's rare that our financial statements
reflect that.
get it circulated widely anyway, so we're okay. All right, and then, so we already have the motion to approve the financial statement, so we just have to receive this for information then? Okay, motion to receive this delegation for information then. Councillor Holm, all in favor? Thank you, Will and Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Glenn Henry's not here, so. So then you want to do 7.2 then while we're, 7.2 then, please.
So before you is the proposed mill rate for the town of Coaldale. Right now, we're proposing a 1% increase in the mill rate from the years previous for residential and 4% in non-residential. When you take into consideration inflation as well, the residential becomes 2.18 and 5.78. I've included in your package a comparison across the board for councillors to see various increase and decreases on an average for our citizens. And for the residential, the average municipal increase would be $107 approximately, and then total including our Alberta education portion, etc., it'll be $167. So it equates to approximately $8.54 per month for a residential property, or and then $41 approximately for commercial. We also take into consideration with this mill rate the growth in our assessment was able to pay for our carbon tax for this year. That I'm not sure if that will continue, but this year we were able to stay within the 1% and still cover things like that that haven't been there in the past, and knows what the future will hold. And we were also able to have a nice surprise of the operating grant from the province for one more year, which again is not knowing if that will continue as well, which has also helped us maintain the 1% that we are proposing for council.
Any questions through to Michelle on her presentation? So on the big sheet there, does it delineate which ones are the the industrial? Is that
The very last page is the industrial,
commercial?
and the pages before that are all the residential. I think I have approximately 150 different properties around town for the residentials. I don't have as many for the commercial, but they're a lot smaller in base. So. I also included for council the breakdown of what our expenses are, showing. So you can see that the province takes 21% of all our tax money that we do bring in.
Maybe you can do a executive summary of the colorful
Sure.
little wheel.
So the province requires that we collect 21% of the taxes goes back to the province for education, for FCSS and Green Acres. Our policing is 9% of our budget. Our fire and emergency services is 10%. The biggest chunk of our budget is public works, which obviously is our water, sewer, roads, etc. That is 34%. And due to the snow season we had this year, I thought I would let people know that 1% of our budget is actually towards snow removal. Our planning, development, economic growth, etc. is up 7%. Our parks and recreation is 11%. cultural and advance is 5%, and then administration by itself is only 2%.
Historically, the police, under the previous arrangement,
It
what
was closer to 20%.
right? Any questions through to Michelle on her report? All right. So if there is none, then Councilor Chapman.
Thank you, Worship. You don't speak about the M&E tax in this report. Any other than-
Well, the M&E, we don't do M&E in the town of Coaldale. So just like several other municipalities around us do not have M&E.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because as I was reading it on the other sheet, in the other report, that the M&E tax will be included in your overall assessment. And so
Correct.
when you pay the tax for Barrington Rica and for renaturers, for example, that's included in your M&E tax
No, it's actually not. M&E is excluded for that.
as well.
Yes,
So right across the board,
correct.
but you're assessed on the full amount, and then that levy, even though there isn't a breakdown to Barrington Rica or to renaturers.
Yeah, the full amount goes through, but it gets removed when you do the mill rate for the other parts of the municipality, and it's like that across Alberta.
All right, I just thought that it looked like it was set up that way. Okay, thank you.
So if there's no questions for Michelle, thank you very much, Michelle. Motion to receive that report for information. Councilor Pauls, all in favor? And I think, yeah, might as well just finish up. The 7.3, the telecellular tower site lease agreement. Sorry, Michelle. You're gonna need a holiday after your holiday. We have your report in the package. Anything you want to add further to that then?
Other than I did try and talk to them to increase it quite a bit more if I could. But as I was starting to do more research, the towers in our area don't bring in the revenue that some of the other towers do. So I wasn't able to push as hard as I would have wanted to.
Okay. Any questions for Michelle? Thank you for your efforts putting a strong arm on him anyway. There's a recommendation in the report. Does anybody care to adopt the recommendation? Councilor Chapman moves the recommendation that approve the 20-year agreement with the rates of rent is stipulated within there. Any discussion?
Yes, Your Worship, this agreement cannot be open in the next 20 years?
Probably every year they'll come back because if the CPI drastically increases or decreases, they are required to pay us at that point. So we came up with a 10% because that seems to be the average over the years. So it would just be, are you wanting to keep it the same or not? So other than that, it'll stay closed.
So the numbers would stay the same, but it would be open.
If the CPI is drastically increased, then they're, according to the agreement, they actually are required to pay us the higher amount.
I'd just be uncomfortable if it was a closed agreement where it couldn't be open at any time.
Every 5 years, the pricing part of it can be open.
Okay, you're still good with your motion then? Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's passed. Yeah, I think you're good, Michelle. You can run.
There's one more to go, but
7.4, the AUMA letter of support for Trans Mountain. Does council wish to?
Your worship, AUMA is looking for a collection of letters in support of this motion.
Right.
Of this position, I should say.
Yeah.
I would make the motion, Council President Administrator, provide a letter of support to AUMA in support of the Trans Mountain expansion project.
Just to be clear, I don't believe we need to actually draft the letter. We just have to confirm that council will resolve to support it by way of an email back to UMA for them to have our municipality's name included in the letter.
The wording is to provide a letter, so we just respond back to AUMA with our support.
Right. Any discussion?
Make that
Okay. Councilor Chapman's motion to respond in the affirmative to AUMA. All in favor? Any opposed? None? And declaration of Seniors Week. Maybe I should have declared a conflict on.
Clear that June 3rd to 9th is Seniors Week.
How respectful of the younger generation. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right. I think we got a bit of time yet. We got. Is your class gonna tune in right on time, or?
You know what? No, because they had something else going on, so it's just us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're ahead of schedule. We're fine with that.
You're okay? Because I wanted to buy you enough time so that all your teammates could watch and then heckle you upon your return or something like that.
No, I think we're okay with the go.
Okay. Councilor Chapman and I were lucky enough to be invited to Mr. Gall's grade 6 class, and as part of their segment on civic government, and they were a very inquisitive group with some good questions and that. And prior to that meeting, we had the delightful opportunity to hear a couple of presentations that were well presented in that, and so I felt that it would be nice to allow the people that put this effort in and to show that the young people of our community are thinking about ways to improve our community and that. So I sent an offer for them to attend today, and they might view this as a honor or a punishment. I'm not sure which, but they all did a very good job, and I think council will be better off by hearing, that the youth of our community are interested in what happens in this case with our local furry friends, but they're all citizens too. So who wants to go first, Mr. Gall?
I think so yes, we've got Madison Marsh and Madeline Hurley. And so you can go right up.
So again, we're from St. Joseph's School, and I'm Madison, and I'm Madeline.
And they do have a slide
Yeah.
presentation.
Yes.
So do they have control on the clicker then? Or?
Perfect. So our mission is to get agility equipment for the dog park on. So
dogs outside who look happy.
The community will benefit if they are outside, they get to know each other, and then they make friends and they learn more about each other.
And dogs who don't get enough exercise, they can get very unhealthy, and their owners can get very unhealthy if they don't walk them or exercise them.
It gets them out in the community, and they just get out to the community and see what's new.
So dogs on their exercise. Certain dog breeds need half an hour to 2 hours of exercise. 1 in 5 dog owners are too lazy to walk their dogs and get outside. 2 facts about why you have to walk your dog.
Our dog's health is our responsibility, and so is ours. We have to be responsible for our dog's health because the dog can't walk itself or take care of itself.
Socialization. It's good for dogs to be social with other dogs so they get used to other ones around them. Less fights will happen this way.
Agility plan. We would like the dog park on 8th Street and 20th Avenue, Coaldale. It already has the land. We would just like some equipment in it, not just a field. Most dogs like to impress their owners. This way they have something to use. The price would be $3,000 to $5,000 without donations. We have already talked to potential donors. We also know of some local businesses that would be willing to donate supplies. The equipment we would be using is tires, cement pipes, trees, rocks, and more.
This is some agility equipment. There's jump bars, seesaws, and tunnels.
And like the green tunnel there, we wouldn't be using plastic because when Mayor Craig came, he asked us a question because people could steal the equipment. So we would use like wood, tires for tunnels. There would also be a pond, and that would only cost about $300 for just to get it started. Then every year it'd be $250. But other than that, it wouldn't need any other expense yearly.
Yeah, so
And then
dogs can go in the water.
cut the grass, of course, but other than that.
Dog behavior. Dog behavior can change if they don't get enough exercise. Yet if an animal hurts a human, it can be put down. With this dog park, dogs can get to know how to socialize with humans as well as dogs to make sure that no one gets hurt.
This would be good for the town of Coaldale. This would be good for the town of Coaldale because it would get us moving more and keep us out in the community. This would also keep our dogs in Coaldale happy. Coaldale would have more dogs who trusted their owners because it would be a learning experience to do something with your dog that the two of you would enjoy.
The cons and pros. The cons is dogs could get a little bit hurt. Some dogs might not like the agility we have for them, and some people might not like it.
Pros. Police dogs could use the area for training. They could use it for just when they're starting. They could training because I don't think the police station here has that, or not a big enough area. So the community could use it and their police department could use it. It also gives the community something new to try. Some people would have another sport they could try.
And thank you for watching.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Any questions through to our presenters? Our town manager wants to grill you.
I just got a puppy, so I'm paying close attention to these tips. Of all the pieces of equipment that you've looked at, like what would you characterize as the most important? Which one would appeal to the greatest variety of dogs?
Oh, that's a good question. Tunnels some puppies might not like the tunnels because it could be dark, so tunnels might not be the best, but probably the most
Is maybe the little seesaw, because lots of puppies like to use that.
Just
like my dog.
things
when
they
she's
could walk
puppy.
up and walk down, things where they're out and open. Some dogs don't they like the shade, they like the tunnel, but probably the seesaw because they're up and the owners can be right there. So for a puppy, like you said, for the first little bit you could just try it on that, and then for the tunnel, eventually they would just learn.
Yeah, they would learn.
And
Then,
then
my dog was always scared.
Yeah, we both have dogs, and we just eventually they thought about it and went through them, and yeah. So I went to the Whitefish dog park because they have one there, and when I was there, they had a wag walk. So they would pay $10 for an entry fee, and they would go have walks, and all the money would go towards the park, which I thought would be good for Coaldale. And lots of people, even people who weren't from Whitefish, did it. And you could do walks, running.
And also, when my dad is part of 911, he's a 911 dispatcher, so he's allowed to go into a private dog agility area in Lethbridge. And there were lots of good things there too, like lots of wooden things.
Yes, and we could take ideas from that and put it out there. But yeah.
Well, thanks very much for taking the time to present and the information.
Our staff sergeant just entered, so you might have to share the information about the canine benefits for him. Yeah, but well, congratulations, Maddie and Madeline, for a great presentation again. It takes a lot of courage to come out. I think some of our grown-up counselors even get a little bit nervous about speaking in public, so good on you for joining us today, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then our next contestants on the council agenda are coming up. Jessica and Trinity, right. They have a more ambitious plan in terms of dollars. Okay, the floor is yours, ladies.
I'm Jessica Holstein.
And I'm Trinity Whitmer, and we're from St. Joe School in grade 6. And we did this presentation with 2 others, Lucas and Dylan, but they could not join us today.
We're going to be looking at an animal adoption center for Coaldale. How much will it cost to build an animal adoption center? An animal adoption center will cost $2 million to get running and $54K annually to operate. Of course, we would need to buy all the stuff to build this shelter, and we would need all the stuff to care for the animals. That would probably cost about another $50,000. But if the animals are rescued, they won't cost us any money to buy, just to take care of them. If people want to adopt a pet, it will cost them some money to do so. We will only be charging money if the animals are new or babies. The bigger animals are free. Charging people some money will help us pay for our yearly cost. If you want a big dog, it would cost about $60 plus all the food, toys, bed, and medical care like shots. All of that will probably add up to about $2 million minimum.
The land we researched would be about 305,000, and the lot size would be about 4.44 acres. And we didn't get where the land is exactly, but it's outside of the Cottonwood area. There's a huge open field that was up for land.
This is what the animals we'd have in the shelter and what breeds they are. We'd mainly have cats and dogs because we'd rescue the dogs off the streets, and animals as well, cats as well, and other animals.
Some positives about having an animal shelter: we would be rescuing endangered and hurt animals. All the animals would be free to adopt because they're rescued. Whoever wants to get an animal would need to go through a test to see if they would be okay to take care of an animal, so they're not gonna hurt the animal because they're rescued. All the shots and medical care would be free for the animals. All the animals that are up for adoption would be friendly, so that it'd be safer for the people who want to adopt one. And we'd be moving stray animals to the shelter, and that helped the community because there won't be a bunch of animals roaming around the town.
Positives about having an animal shelter. Negatives about having an animal shelter. It will cost a lot of money to get running and keep it running and buying all the equipment. We would need to know how to take care of the animals, so we'd have to hire professionals to know how to make sure they're okay, and we would need all the right materials to be able to help the animals and to take care of them.
Why we need an animal adoption center? We would need an animal adoption center because if we don't have one and like people rescue animals, they won't have a place to keep them or anywhere for people to adopt pets. But we also need one so if other people find stray animals on the streets or alleys and they make sure they put their hand down and try and rescue it, they don't have to keep it in their home. They can bring it to the adoption center and we will make sure it's safe. And we would either try to find its owner, or if it's hurt or sick, we'd keep it at the adoption center until it's better.
Why would this help Coaldale? The animal shelter would help Coaldale because instead of having lost, hurt, or stray animals everywhere, they would be in a shelter. People could take care of their animals for walks without worrying that they will be stray or dangerous animals near them.
The differences between stray dogs and dogs in the adoption center: strays, they don't have a home, no one will care for them, they have no food or water or medical treatment, they die alone, and they could get attacked if they're alone in the wild for a long time. And at the adoption center, they would have lots of food and water, they would have a nice place to live, they would be healthy with all their medical treatment, they're cared for, and they will live longer in the adoption center because they're not roaming around everywhere.
Pet store prices versus adoption center prices. Pet store prices is very high than adoption center because we'd rescue them and they may have like a little bit of like health issues, but we'd fix that, so but they wouldn't be as much money as a pet store.
We take care of the animals we'd feed, walk, train, and give them like all their shots and medical care, and we'd make sure they have a nice place to live. And for like reptiles and stuff, we'd clean their cages at least once a week, give them the right medical care and all the other love that the animals get. And for the birds, we'd feed them food, give them a good shelter, give them right medical treatments, and also clean out their cages once a week.
Yeah, and thank you for watching my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions through to our delegation? Well, thank you to you both and to Dylan and Lucas for putting together such a great presentation. Councillor Chapman, I think, has a question.
Maybe two questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was great for us to hear you again and to see this idea move forward a bit. I guess my two questions are: one, your idea of an animal shelter, would it be a place where it can be used as a dog pound? So if our community peace officers do pick up a stray dog or cat or what have you, that's where they could also take it to?
Yes.
Yes, they could take it there and then we'd
Try
take
and
care of
find
it
the
and try
owner.
and find the owner.
The second question I have is with regards to people going on vacation. Would they be able to take their pets there and leave them for a time
Yeah.
while they're away?
And then when they come back, we just give them, they'd have to like say their name and stuff and make sure that's their actual owner.
And we'd make sure that they were in a nice clean room where like if there's some sick dogs, we wouldn't put them in the same room with the sick dogs.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies. Let's give a big hand to all the presenters today. The bad news is you raised the bar pretty high for our next delegation. So. No pressure, Staff Sergeant. But. So you're welcome to stay for a bit, or if you want to leave, or that's fine.
We'll stay for about 15 minutes
Sure.
or so.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It is tough to go after you guys. You're so polished, and I'm not. one of the secrets that I have is lots of binders always helps. Huh? I'm not going to bore you folks too much or take up too much of your time. These quarterly reports are really, I think, an excuse for me to come in and come before council to talk about matters involving policing. Yeah, I understand you guys have the fourth quarter of our quarterly report. Right. And again, for those that are not too familiar with our quarterly reports, it just talks about our annual performance plan and the three initiatives that we did over the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Part of this was the building and maintaining positive community relations through our interaction with the community. So listed off a number of the events that we participated in. The second event to reduce property crimes through police visibility. And again, that is having our members out being visible, doing traffic enforcement throughout the community, and basically trying to deter criminal activity through our policing presence. And one of the ways for me to track that our members are out there during the day and evening is through the traffic enforcement initiative. And the final priority was the habitual offender management program, which is a crime reduction strategy. And that strategy basically is to identify people who take up a lot of our time for calls for service, and to focus on those people to give them options to rehabilitate, to relocate, or to, I guess at some point, be put into custody. So any questions on last year's final quarter, which ended March 31st?
Any questions through the staff sergeant?
What I'll do then, if I may, is I'll carry on to what we're looking at for the 2018-2019 annual performance plan. A little bit new, a little bit old. One of the mandates from our division, K Division in Edmonton, is to look at some type of priority for our employee wellness. And that can take different forms. And what we're looking for is a strong, healthy workforce, but also a workforce that has the ability and the tools to do their job. So this initiative will be to track the number of improvements for our officer safety for our members. That may include tools such as breaching tools, include our members getting timely training, things like carbine training, and any other of the tools that we have to try to make sure that our folks have the proper equipment in place to do their jobs more effectively. We're going to maintain the reduced property crimes through police visibility. So I think that's, although it's hard to measure, I think the visibility of us in the community is a good thing. And we're also mandated to continue with the habitual offender management crime reduction program, which is one of the things that our K Division is trying to lead all our detachments into doing really intelligence-led type policing strategies. So those will be the three big ones. Again, these are just the priorities that we work on that I'm tracking, but it's not all that we do, and there's certainly lots of activities, policing activities that we're going to do throughout the year, and it seems our priorities become priorities of the day, which in some cases can be rather unfortunate. In talking about priorities of the day, just it may not affect the town of Coaldale per se, but I think it's a general observation. In the last 3 months, we've investigated 3 drug overdoses at the Lethbridge Correctional Center. So the introduction of fentanyl, carfentanil into our communities, especially in our correctional centers, is a problem for us. And unfortunately, we've had a number of sexual assault investigations over the past month or so, some involving here in Coaldale, some being historic as well, but something that we don't like to see, but it's our reality. On that note, and just talking about recent high-profile stuff, there was an initiative that came out through our K Division again. It's been piloted through the City of St. Albert through their website, and I've been asked to come before councils and to discuss this topic with you folks. K Division is looking at adding sort of real-time or timely updates to communities as to where crimes occur and where they occur in your communities. What we're looking for is to partner with municipalities that have their own websites. And what we do is we'd update that website through the town to let the community know where offenses are happening. So if you go to the St. Albert website, you can tell where vehicle thefts are happening, where thefts from vehicles are happening, where there's mischiefs happening, that type of property crime stuff. So again, something I spoke with the CAO about, and something we'll just bring before council, and I certainly would be happy to send a link to the CAO, and he can refer it to you guys if you're interested in that type of thing. Statistics are kind of a double-edged sword. You put them out to people and people get upset about it, people get surprised and shocked by it, but in the next breath I think we need to have a bit of a reality dose for our communities to make sure that our citizens, rather, to make sure they know that our communities are not safe from crime. We're again within about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from a population source of 100,000 people, so their crime is our crime, and we're not that far away. So we do have crime here, and maybe people may want to see it, may not. So that'll be something that I'll throw out to you guys for your thoughts, and you can certainly get back to me. Final thing, formal thing I just want to talk about, and I'm going to say it before you folks say it, and I'm just going to talk quickly about our new building and the status update on that. I've got it here somewhere in one of my notes. I think I brought it here. Well, actually, before I talk about the new building, I just want to talk about something else. Councillor Simpson, you brought this up at a presentation a while back about accommodation costs, and you're asking about those. I'm very pleased to advise council that in consultation with our folks in the K Division, the accommodation costs have now been stopped as of April 1. So those costs were, if you can recall, were costs that the RCMP were assuming to the municipality for things like file storage, exhibit storage, vehicle parking, whatever you have it at the Lethbridge building. And after some good discussion with the folks in Edmonton, it was decided that's not a fair cost, and that's now going to be rescinded. So, any questions on that?
Any questions through to Kaylin? Go ahead.
Just a piece of information, just to thank the staff sergeant for helping to facilitate contact with the billing arm of the federal government. So in terms of what that means in dollars and cents, about $12,000 to $15,000 per quarter is what that saves us in terms of the total policing bill. So it's appreciated that we were able to have a discussion with the decision makers.
I'm going to leave the best for last, or last for the best. I asked this morning the folks up at our asset management department in Edmonton to give me an update as where we are today on our building. As we know, this has been a very long and arduous process. What they advised me is the construction documents are about 50% complete. We anticipate having them 100% complete by the fall. We'll have to go for a full public tender, which will take 40 days, 40 nights, due to the value of the contract. Security clearances have to be in place before an award can occur. So they anticipate spring groundbreaking. So I think we had a different update as from our commanding officer back at AUMA of July. This is their latest to me, is spring. So I can't give you much more on that. I know it's coming, and we're the ones that would like this building here sooner than anybody else, but that is our reality based on what they're telling me. So we'll be cutting grass, I think, for the summer again.
Maybe you can house the musical ride horses out on the pasture.
It's a good idea, but I think there's too many gophers.
Any questions through the staff sergeant? Are you ready for the questions?
Oh, you betcha. Yeah.
Councillor Lloyd, I believe.
With the G7 coming up, summit coming up in June, is that going to affect the policing in Coaldale at all, do you think?
Yes and no. So let me just, I got a couple of documents on that, because that's an interesting situation. I'm going to just read to you a couple things, just to give you an overview of what G7 is. Just for those who are not aware, G7 is the, where is it? It's in Charlevoix, Quebec. I believe it's June 8th and 9th. It's a summit of the, I guess, 7 largest economic countries in the world. The G7 K Division, so the RCMP in Alberta, will be deploying over 430 regular members, civilian members, and public service to support G7. And here it is, will take place in the Charlevoix region of Quebec, June 8th and 9th. They say that we finalized the G Division's contingent to this event. The majority of deployed employees will be in the operational phase from approximately June 1st to June 10th, plus travel time. Our goal for this mobilization is to minimize the impact on frontline policing and K Division while supporting the RCMP's critical G7 role as a national police force. So what's happening from the Coaldale perspective? Our detachment from a funding perspective is broken down into 2 funding sources: the municipality, Coaldale, and the rural side. We are sending 1 member, Constable Susi, to the G7, but he is on the rural side. So from a funding perspective, no impact on the community here. But what will happen is we'll be running a vacancy on the rural side, and to help with this vacancy, there's been an RCMP-wide leave restriction from May 23rd to June 12th. So members are not allowed to be on any holidays. There'll be some training courses, carbine courses, and a few priority courses, but otherwise training is stopping and all leave is stopping. So what we're hoping for is no impact on day-to-day policing. Does that answer your question?
I believe Councillor Homa has a question.
Just to follow up on that crime website at St. Albert, has your members there received any feedback from the public on what they feel about it? Is it a good idea from their perspective or anything like that?
No idea. This is basically just relayed to all the detachments with municipal contracts, saying this is something to discuss with your community. So I have no feedback on that. You know, again, you put in perspective the size of St. Albert. I'm not sure what's that, 60,000 people or thereabouts, right beside Edmonton. It may have different impact on their citizens than us with 8,000 people, but sorry, I have no idea how it's going to look.
Okay.
I have no idea how many people actually look at that stuff and what their idea would be to look at it for. Yeah.
That would take for us to make a decision that that's a great idea and implement it and find out that from the policing perspective, it's a really bad idea. So that's why I'm asking the question.
You know, from my perspective, it's a double-edged sword. You know, I'm sure if you had someone from the Chamber of Commerce sitting beside me saying, we don't want to be telling people we have a crime in our community. You know, on the next breath, we need to educate our citizens that crime does occur in our community and to act appropriately through locking up vehicles and locking their homes and that kind of stuff. So it depends on what perspective you come from, I guess.
Councillor Simpson?
I actually, with that stats, I find that people that want to know a lot of times will look, and the people that don't want to know, I actually quite like that idea. I just know when I was president of the Neighborhood Watch, it was a lot of people said they didn't care to find out, so they didn't find out, and there was lots of people who did and would. I just have one question for you that's not really with your report. A couple of citizens have come up to me and talked about the Cottonwood Drive between the 845 and Elm Drive, just with that speeders there. Is there anything we can do to try to diminish that a little bit?
You know what, I'll throw us out to you, as I will almost every occasion. Any particular instance that people bring to your attention, direct them to me. We'll talk about strategies, what we can or can't do. We have a dedicated traffic enforcement member that can be deployed if it makes sense. But unfortunately, people have perceptions of speed that may not always be accurate. But let's take those individual complaints and we'll look at them individually and see what we can do to help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Worship. Staff Sergeant, my question is this, the report here that you have, the quarterly report as presented, do you present that same report to Town of Coaldale, Town of Colehurst, and Lethbridge counties?
Yes.
That's the same report?
Yes.
The numbers that you are presenting here under reduction of property crimes through police visibility, 173 traffic violation tickets, and a couple other numbers here, are they relative just to the Town of Coaldale, or would they be for the whole area?
The whole area.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Staff Sergeant. I think maybe just to keep that one item on the radar, it would be appropriate maybe to receive the report for information and maybe direct the administration to contact St. Albert and get more information on that link and bring it back to us.
If you want, I can send you the link. That might be maybe the first step to have a look at it, and then maybe you can access their website to have a look at it, and then maybe the next step would be to contact St. Albert if you're.
I think administration should reach out to the St. Albert and see, logistics and whatnot as well. Councillor Holm? And you want the... Okay. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you very much.
Can't have too many binders.
Yeah.
It's a lot more professional with a bunch of binders. Looks like it's nice.
If I was organized, it would be better.
Okay, and then I apologize for dancing around the agenda a little bit, but try and get back into sequential thinking here. I believe we have item 6.1 as the mill rate bylaw. So Michelle's last romp to the delegation table, and she's going to wonder why she came back from holidays.
So this mill rate is reflection of what council has already talked about with the previous mill rate. So it is the 1% plus the 1.8 inflation.
Okay. Seems quite straightforward.
Very straightforward in terms of for readings in order to get the bills out.
All right, any questions? And if there aren't any, then whether somebody would care to sponsor a first reading of the mill rate bylaw. Councillor Lloyd, was that your hand? Councillor Lloyd sponsors the first reading of the mill rate bylaw. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, and no opposed, right? Okay. And then anybody care to sponsor? Councillor Holm moves for second reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried unanimously. And motion for unanimous consent to be able to read all three readings in one session. Councillor Chapman moves for the motion for unanimous consent. So, all in favor? Okay, and that passes unanimously. We're almost home. One more. Councillor Chapman moves for third and final reading of the mill rate bylaw. All in favor? Okay, that's carried.
Yeah, did you have an opposed or no?
Oh, and put one opposed. Councillor Avery. Sorry, I didn't. I give up on my peripheral vision there. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Okay, thank you, Michelle. All right, and then we have item 8.1 in our package. The development stats is there for your perusal. Any questions about 8.1? Cindy isn't able to attend today. Motion to receive that for information. Councillor Simpson, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. And then we have Chief McEwen here after a sleepless night.
No problem. Do you want to start it?
Well, there we go. A motion to receive that.
That was quick, yeah. Yeah, I won't touch anything.
While Anna's dealing with technological issues, we have 10 correspondence. Anybody care to move 10.1 for information? Councillor Simpson, all in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Well, you have a question?
I do.
What?
One, I know that we've suggested that we should be writing this letter. I noticed in the letter that it basically uses what was sent to us by the Chamber of Commerce. Was sent to us by the Chamber of Commerce almost word for word, and I think at least 3 of the 4 of us, when we discussed this back 2 meetings ago, suggested that we had no idea what the request was about. And I find this letter being exactly the same thing. I still have no idea what it is that we're supporting the Chamber of Commerce on. I would like to have this letter rewritten in plain language that basically states this is what we are supporting. In our discussions, it did talk about intermodule,
right,
the storage areas, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing about that really in the letter except they used the word, but I don't know why. So I'm opposed to supporting this letter when I have no idea what it's about.
So then you were talking about making a motion to send a follow-up letter with clear wording?
Absolutely. I would support the letter going back to the chamber, but only if it's in plain enough language that somebody who's reading it on the internet would actually know what the letter's about.
So do you want to make a motion then?
I'd make that motion that we rewrite the letter in plain language.
Supporting the intermodal initiative.
If that's what the original request was for, then correct.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Chapman is opposed. That's carried. All right, Chief.
Okay, I think we're good here. So, Your Worship, members of council, and CAO Hastings, thank you for your time today. We're going to go through a first quarter report from the fire department side of things. Also, we have the month of April is done for month-end stats, so that's also included. So first of all, I haven't been in front of you since the budget process. With a growing community such as Coaldale, naturally there are numerous budgetary asks from all departments. We're lucky to have a town council that holds public safety as a top priority for our residents. It makes it easier for us to perform our duties when we know we have support from the top down. So from all of us at the fire department, thank you very much for your support. Okay. Looking at the town calls, January to April, we're sitting at 86 so far. January and April were the bigger months for in-town calls with 19 apiece. So we're sitting at 86 for those 4 months, 229 firefighter hours, and 772 firefighter hours of training. So that's just for in-town. If we look at our county stats now, we're sitting at 42 calls for the same time period. February was our big month. If you remember the winter we had, it's pretty hard to forget that. During the month of February, we had a winter weather warning just about every day of the month. We had a pretty horrendous time out on the highway during that month. We had 8 MVCs, 2 very, very serious ones, and one that resulted in a fatality. So we were very busy on the highways around our area in February. So 42 calls in the county for 440 hours, firefighter hours. And that basically is just the hours breakdown on the county calls. This is showing the last 5 years, our average calls. So 2017, our past year, definitely was a record breaker for us at 418 calls. 247 of those were medical, 171 were fire. If our pace continues at this level, we could be shooting for 445 calls this year. However, right now we're kind of on pace to meet at 2016, which is about a 384. It's really going to depend how the summer turns out for us, and calls are so hit and miss. But we're going in the last 5 years about 6% year-over-year increase. So if that continues, we could expect the higher end of those numbers. So 2018 so far in the 4 months, 128 calls, 76 are medical, 52 are fire. Total firefighter hours, 669 work hours, and training, 772 hours of training. This is another one we like to keep a close eye on, is our Code Red events. So far in 2018, we've had 11 Code Red calls in the town of Coaldale. So no ambulances have been available those 11 times, and our firefighters have done the medical first response until an ambulance from out of community arrives. And just a couple updates in our department. Some big things going on, so I thought I'd touch base on a couple of those bigger items. Our recruitment campaign, we had 15 applications come in for volunteer firefighter. That's the most at one time this department has ever had. We brought in 9 people to the interview and fitness process. One of those was a town employee. Happy to say that and then see that. Out of those 9, 6 were offered positions and 3 were put on a deferred list. So we are taking 6 aboard right away. We're just trying to figure out scheduling to bring them on for training. So that's recruitment. Kelly LaRondelle started as our Deputy Chief of Operations on April 9th. He is a very good fit for the department. Very little onboarding. He was able to hit the floor kind of running already. He's functioning at a high level just after only being here a month. Very lucky to have him on board. We have Clayton Rutberg, who's going to be starting with us June 4th. He's going to be falling into the position of Deputy Chief of Public Safety. So under his portfolio, he's taking over oversight of the Community Peace Officer program. He's taking over emergency management, where Mark Murphy was once in charge of. And he's also going to assist us on the fire side of things with public education and fire prevention. So we can branch that program out and evolve our fire prevention, get into the community a little bit more with what we're doing. So again, he starts June 4th, and he's coming down. He works full-time for High River, and he's coming down, moving his family down from Vulcan. So all of our full-time positions are filled. I feel we're adequately staffed full-time wise for the foreseeable future, and really happy with the team that we put together. Top right picture, most of you were there for the arrival of the Lethbridge County Engine 106. So that is now fully in service and good to go, except it has sat in our hall and we haven't had a call since it arrived. And so it's been a bit of a white cloud. We're all itching to get on there and do a call, and it's playing with our minds. So we're all waiting for that. So bottom right, so looking at the elevated master stream, commercial emergency equipment out of Calgary, which is the dealer for Pierce, was awarded the bid for the elevated master stream. So that has been ordered. A couple members of our committee will be going down to Wisconsin for the pre-build meeting with Pierce about the 3rd week of June. So we're looking forward to that. And we're getting a call. Okay, last item regarding the fire hall renovation and expansion project. So we hired Ian Moxon Architects was the firm that was hired to do the detailed design drawings for that. He came in at the lowest bid. We've had one preliminary meeting with them, and we'll be meeting again in the next couple weeks to move forward with that. So again, very excited. And that is the conclusion of my report. Is there any questions on anything?
With the Cope Red, you have the red bar showing 11 thus far. So does that include May? Was there 5 Cope Reds in May then, or?
This does not include May, just January to April.
So then I was just kind of looking at your spreadsheet and just wondering, like, I see 6 for.
Red, so 4, 6.
Sorry, we must have missed something in there, or it's in May. Sorry about that.
So then, is that number 11 number correct, or is it?
Yes, 11 is correct. So I'll have to go back and figure out where the other ones came from.
Okay. Any questions, other questions, Chief? Councilor Chapman?
Couple of questions, Your Worship, through Chief. One, E106, does it have that new AFRAX radio in it?
It does, yes.
Okay. And my second question, with regards to your mutual aid with Tabor, is that an agreement we have with Tabor, or do we have an agreement with Tabor, or is that just on call?
No, we don't have a signed agreement with Tabor right now. They're not currently signed on with the Southern Alberta Resource Sharing Agreement. We were in talks with them about signing a single individual agreement with the MD of Tabor, but that has not been signed yet. However, we have spoken over the phone, and I've assured them, and they've assured us, if we need them, they could always call. So,
thank you.
Any other questions for the Chief? On behalf of Council, thank you very much for your presentation today, and please convey back to your volunteers at your department our profound thanks for all the work that they continue to do, and we'll be thinking of them and hoping that they don't hit the 450, the record call status.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty tiring to do that. So, but we really are appreciative of all the work.
thank you.
Phenomenal, the number, you do all that work and then you fit in so many training hours. It's exercise of time management there, so very good. Okay, a motion to receive Chief McEwen's presentation for information. Councilor Lloyd, all in favor? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have I believe we have items 11.1 to 11.6. Are there any questions on any of those items within that? Okay. Keelan?
I would just like it stated on record that I actually didn't run a 55-minute 5K. I just want to make sure that's in the minutes. We have our certificate from the Coaldale Fun Run, so I had to lend out my my number, and I didn't take 55 minutes to complete the race, so just a small little tidbit there.
You had a did not finish, I think, is the okay. Maybe I'll just, hopefully, I'm sure everybody read their whole package, but if you get a chance, if you didn't, you know, and you don't have to admit it to me, but 11.5 is a good update on the SAVA project and that, so it's captivating reading. Motion to receive all the items within section 11 for information, if that's agreeable. Councilor Pauls? Okay. All in favor? And I think, I would take any help, it's just if anybody see anything I missed, I kind of jumped around, I think we covered everything. Okay, a motion to go in camera then, please. Councilor Simpson, all in favor?